Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear
Okay, there we go.
you. I like your headphones.
Thank you. They stand out a little bit.
Yeah, I love them.
Okay, how are you doing today?
I am just fine. How about yourself?
I am doing pretty good.
Good. It's all Elizabeth is having had flight troubles, so she won't be on. She's getting back this afternoon.
Okay, well, unfortunate.
I
But
know. It's a bummer.
we, yeah, we got the recording for her at least. So,
Yeah, yeah.
hi, hi, future Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth. Hope you had a good trip.
Okay. Well, in that case, did you have any before we begin? Did you have any questions or anything? Let's see.
Not off the top of my head. I've actually started going backwards because I'm realizing that I need to be comfier with JavaScript. So
Mhm.
I've been going through back through the free code camp with going back through some of the JavaScript exercises, just kind of um get a little bit stronger on that as well, kind of as we do the React thing. And I am noticing that actually it is the second time through some of these exercises, it's a little bit it makes a little more sense. So
Yeah, yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, no. Um, yeah, that's a really good thing to do because that's honestly a lot of the time how you like start realizing like how all this stuff connects and it makes more sense when you like start seeing it used in different ways, like, us doing React now and some of the concepts of React, and then when you go back and you learn JavaScript, or you look at things that you learned in the past, then you understand it a little bit. And I mean, like I said, like a lot of times, a lot of the things that we're doing here is like muscle memory anyway.
mhm,
It's just getting used to it and you know that practice. So doing that type of stuff is gonna be really helpful, I think. I will
good.
go ahead and share my screen.
Hey, just to jump in real quick,
Oh, yeah.
I'll probably be in and out, but I started the recording on accident, so I'll leave it running. But if you do need me for anything, just hit me up
Mhm.
on Slack and I'll respond.
Okay. I mean, if I don't know if it help. If you want, I can reclaim the host if that's helpful for you.
Will it? I don't know if it'll let you. Will it take over the recording for you?
I don't know how smooth the transition that would be, so maybe we
Yeah.
play it safe. Yeah.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll share a quick little um useful resource. So share my screen. Are you able to see my screen? Okay. Uh, so one thing that you could, so this is really good because you probably noticed that like just learning a program, being a program, you're going to be learning a lot of different tools and stuff like that. So a nice little tool that you can take advantage of is roadmap.sh, and I'll share that in the Slack as well. But as you see, it has all these different topics that you can go into, and some of them there's like some overlapping, like what was it? Like computer science, um, which is really more of the covering like more of the theoretical and uh data structure and like just really deep into computers. Like you're learning more about like how your code is interacting with the hardware, right? Like the limitations of the hardware and all that fun stuff. But if you go in, so let's say like actually where is I wonder if it'll let me do. There it goes. I just did well, on Mac it's Command K. So on a lot of tech focused websites, if you go and you hit Command K, it'll bring up a little search bar so that you can search your website. So that's a lot of, it's not always going to be there, but a lot of time it is a shortcut. Okay. So this is the JavaScript roadmap, which a lot of this stuff is going to look familiar. So but this tool is really convenient. I wish I would have known about it when I first started because it not like it's helpful like when we're going through and we have this structured course and we're going through all our steps, but it's also helpful to see uh like a roadmap like this because then you start making connections on you know when you're going through like how different things connect and what do they fall under and all this stuff. And then as well as additional stuff, because like you can see here, there's a lot of things with, just JavaScript. So this is a really good tool. And then, like once you get through the life cycle, it's not necessarily like that well, I'll say like this one, like here, like in this little box, it has like little um indicators on like what each topic is. So like the beginner topic, intermediate topic, advanced topic. So like you can like on first pass, you might go through and do all the beginner topics, right? And then that would lead you to be able to go through and do, like React. See, so like you see how it goes from JavaScript to React just like we did. So uh that's this is a good way to get some visualization. So like as we're learning things and when we even if after we learn some things, you can use this as a reference. You can go back and you can look at things and be like, okay, uh I see how when we learned what a use state was, how it, connects to um the premise of like a hook, right? Like this thing has like resources that you can use. So like if we learn something as well, then you can even use that to like look up some additional resources. I like to always tell people anyway, like when we learn something, it's always good to, like I said, everything's muscle memory. So it's always good to just look at it yourself, learn some things, you know, think about think about some use cases for yourself and all that fun stuff. So like I said, it can seem a little overwhelming, but this helps put things into perspective and it makes it a little bit more structured instead of just having like, that mental map of things. So that's a resource that you can definitely take advantage of. All right. And I'll put that in the chat. Okay. So with that, let me throw this in the chat real quick. And then after class, I'll put it somewhere more that makes more sense. Okay. So we well, welcome to module 4, day 2. So today we're gonna be kind of getting into a little bit like what we got into on Wednesday. Uh, I know Wednesday we ended talking about components. So we're going to uh get some hands-on experience with really building out a component. And then we're going to start stalling with Tailwind and Daisy UI. Um, as I mentioned, Tailwind is just a really nice tool for implementing like inline code inline styling into your code. So it uses class components. So um, I don't have any prepared here. Yeah, but oh, so we'll get there. But yeah, so it uses the class attribute passes classes to your components, so that way you can easily style them without necessarily having to go back between a CSS file or building out a separate uh style object to pass through to your component. So it's a good way to really speed up your coding process. And then so this for module 4, we're going to be building out a um using the MillDB API, which is a API that um that really is a recipe for you to be able to track recipes and different things like that. Um, so I really built this module around, well, building this project around that because it's going to give us some good practice with dealing with APIs and with a lot of APIs out there because it's not necessarily the most polished API. So I think it'd be really good practice for us dealing with that type of things. So get some real good hands-on practice with that. And then today, so we're going to be building some mill cards. It says one from one mill, but it's going to be a couple mills because that's going to lead into um rendering using the map method. So map is really popular in React because it's really map is if you remember, I'm pretty sure we talked about map, but if you remember for each, so the loop iterator that goes through and for each item in an array, it goes through and it does something with that array, right? Map is similar. The main difference is that map actually renders whatever you output. So those are going to be what we're going to be the main topics we're going to be covering today. So before we get started with that, any questions? Okay. So component composition and props. So as we talked about last time, components, you'll see that I guess you could call it component soup. That makes it sound a little bit negative, but a lot of it's going to be components and components. So components are going to be nested in components, but it's really done in a really, I would say, in a really graceful way that allows us to build out applications that are a lot more maintainable and a lot easier to build on. So props are is data that we pass to a component, typically from the parent component. So if you see here in this header is this object. Notice it's in the curly braces. So it's an object, and we represent in the component that we're working in, we represent the prop as an object. And then here is the header. So this is the title. And then inside the body of our function, we are returning an H1 tag, but notice we're using that prop to render that data. So when we call it, as you see here, we're calling this header. And remember the header is capitalize and use like a tag, like an element tag. So we're using this title prop, and then we're passing this recipe string. So then this component is taking that and then it's going to put it essentially right here for us, right? So that's one of the benefits of this component structure because Now we're able to pass multiple components with different data and get the same component with rendering different data. So let's see. I, yeah. And so like that, you see here we have this hello hard coded, and then here in a second we are going when we actually get that practice and we're actually going to replace this hello, and then we should be able to render it dynamically based on what we pass through our prop. Um, so yeah, so we'll go ahead and then just build out a little quick example. We should already have that project that we started on Wednesday ready to go. Okay. Are we good to go with that one?
Yes, I think so. I am looking, you're looking at that. I was looking to see if my code matches yours.
So necessarily for this one, it doesn't have to match starting now. I think
Okay.
you got a lot of that prefabricated code that came with Vite. So
Yeah.
you can go ahead and get rid of that if you want to. Uh, yeah, I would just go ahead and get rid of that. So like if you go into the app.jsx and then in the return, so we're in the return, you're gonna want to go
Mhm.
in and you could essentially delete everything in the return. And yeah, so you could delete everything in the return, a- and then you're gonna want to have a top level. So we're going to, and in a return statement, you have to have a top level, excuse me, a top level element. So it can be these empty tags. Hold up, let me look up the uh the technical term for it because it's gonna bother me. Was it? Yeah, so I think is that what it's called? The React fragment? Let me see. I think that is what it is. Yeah. But yeah, that's what that is. So that's just a way. So that way, if you're just doing it, it's when you're mainly doing it for like this functionality, right? Like it doesn't necessarily need to be called a div. It's just so you can, it's just a shorthand for that. So that way, we can do things like this. It's just without all the fluff, I guess you could say. So as long as we have this top level, then it's a valid component. But if we were to let's see, do like this, as you can see, if we to do two of them, it's gonna error out. So we get this error, because like I said, it expects only one. So to keep things clean, and you'll usually see that error as soon as you make that mistake most of the time. I don't- yeah, I believe you should see it as soon as you make that mistake. So you should know pretty early on. But typically, um, if you do, sometimes if you have some rendering issues, you definitely want to check to make sure that you're returning just one top level
Okay.
element.
When you
So
say
sorry.
Oh, sorry. When you say top level, what exactly is that? Does that mean one set of those little
So
uh brace thingies?
when I say it, so remember when I think a good concept to remember is when we talked about like nesting like objects and arrays. So like it's the same thing like when we nest like elements, right? So we have this element, the React fragment, but then we have a div, and then we have like a h1,
Mhm.
oops, not HQ, and then we have a p, oops, not a p. So when I say the top element, it means just like in terms of like the parent-child relationship, just taking you to the very top one of, in this context, like that specific uh component, or yeah. So we got these elements nested in all under this, right? Um, so when I say top level, so I'm thinking like if we are like working on this p tag, and I say the top level of this p tag, I mean it's really contextual because like you got to be careful. Like if like there are multiple divs, I might say the top level div, so it can get really confusing. But you typically in this sense, I mean in the sense like that when you go all the way to the top, like you go through each parent of these elements and you get to where essentially you can't go anymore. The very top level, the very most parent of all these, right?
Okay.
Is what I mean by the top level.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you.
so no, yeah, no worries. So that's why when like React is looking at this element, is evaluating this return statement, and then it's looking at the return statement and it's parsing this return statement and saying, okay, I only have, when you're at this level, is looking, it's kind of like doors, right? So you're looking, you open this door, you open this door for the return, and then you just see one door. But if I was to add another tag, then it would see two doors. And it was like, okay, this is wrong, so it's not going to go any further. But it sees just this one door, and it's like, okay, I expect one entry. So I know I can go, so I know this at this current state is valid. So I'm hoping I'm not making it too complicated, but but yeah, so then it goes through this door, and then it sees whatever other elements, the top level. So uh right here we have the div. So you can see this little line. These are little helpers to help you identify, um, you know, which level. That's why the formatting can be pretty important as well because it helps you. It gives you that visual to know, like, okay, I know this is a div, so I know this. So it helps you. So like, because when we are rendering these, they're gonna be two. Let me see. I'll do it again. It is an app. So how we have, these are now two different uh sections now that we have on this page, right? So uh when we go to that expect element, it's gonna show, oops, so we got drill down. So you see it has the two different divs. So, and this is how the browser treats them. So like you see like how it separates them, and then it just continues on just how we uh structured it in our code just now. That makes a little bit more sense. All right. So, when we're working on a component, one practice that you'll see with components is, so like this, we'll go ahead and create a new folder at the source level. So inside this source is going to be, essentially it stands for like your source code. So the code that's going to be rendering your application. You could have outside of the source code additional files and folders, and those are usually associated with like the configuration of the project itself. But the source code is going to be the code that we're going to be using to render uh to the DOM and all that stuff. So in the source folder, or yeah, in the source folder, we'll go ahead and create a new folder, and we're gonna call that one components. So a lot of times you'll typically see a component folder, and then in this component, we're going to create a new file, and we'll just call that header.jsx. We're good on that one. Okay. So, uh, normally, like if we're going to be pulling in any other components, we would do it here. We'll be importing it, but um, right now we are not. So, just like if you remember, we mentioned that. Okay, we don't need to see this, but yeah, we mentioned that you're gonna have your function just like your normal function, but it's gonna be capitalized like this app here. So we'll do the same thing. I'm sorry, I'm a weirdo. I like to have space from my uh my function in my uh the top. So, and we're gonna call this one header, and then we are going to pass a prop, which is going to be an object. So we'll use the curly braces. Um, I'm not sure why it's done. Maybe it's just for aesthetics or whatever. But in React, they really like a space. There's like a space at the beginning and a trailing space at the end. Like you'll notice that. So we'll do title, and then there's like this space. I guess it is helpful. I like it, but um, it's not necessary, but it is pretty standard. So, yeah, we passed our title object, and then do our curly braces to represent. So for the body of the function, and then here we're going to have a h1, and then oh, hold up, I almost missed a part. So I'm also weird because I like to have so if it's like so the reason because a lot of times here you're gonna have some import and possibly some you might be doing some declaring some variables or um functions outside of your component function itself. So I like to have, I don't know, whatever it is, my brain just likes to have that extra space already there. And I like to do the same for the return statement because there you also have some variables and some functions that you might have as well. So this is where we'll do our return statement, and then we'll be with the little parentheses. And then here, this is where so since we only have right here, for instance, we'll be just returning our header, we can just have our header and then using that title object. So the intended element also can be that that top level, that one top element level element is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Oh, and let me know if I need to make the code bigger.
It's good. I have one question. So you've mentioned a few times that the thing is it's that title is an object since it's wrapped in the curly braces.
Hmm.
And I was wondering like what other piece of information is in that title that makes it an object?
So it's just so what would normally be happening is so because we would so it's what it makes it is the data type that it is. So it was just like if we were to do the which isn't valid, but if we were to do the brackets here, oh, I forgot about that. Then it would be uh which now it's an array, right? So it's just the data type and it's just what we are declaring it as at that time. And then that's just the expected data type because React, so when we pass the prop uh React is handling it. So, because you can also put multiple props in here in these curly brackets, right? So it's not going to be multiple objects. It's going to be one object with different props essentially. So we could have a title and then we'd be able to have something like a color or and size and all that type of stuff, right? So then when we are declaring, we are using this component, then we would use these different props as we're, using that component. And then also here, so one of the things that would also help with that, like here you can also declare defaults, right? So let's say I want you to be able to pass a color. However, if you don't, the default is going to be green. So you can also declare the defaults in with your props as well. That makes sense. So it's that data type and being able to just like a normal object pass uh multiple items into it and then being able to use them. So what's happening here is just React is taking that, and then when we I, I know it's not clear because it's like magic happening behind the scenes, and that's like one of the things that we talked about with React. That's what makes React great because it's taking this object and in the background it's like, okay, look, this is what we have, this is what we expect, and instead of having to go through and then you know declare initialize these and then having to start off with, because this is essentially what it's doing. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to make title, title, and then it's going to be like, okay, but now I can assign it here. So it's just shorthanding it for us in that way, but it also allows us to be able to use it in our parent components to be able to determine so that way we can use data from our parent component because let's say we had a function and a parent component that we wanted to use to determine what the title is going to be. That way we don't have to hard code these things in and we have that flexibility. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, perfect. So now we have our header, but one thing is, so I'll just demonstrate that. Let me get rid of all of this. I don't even We don't need this either. So let's see. So we have our header component and then title. All right. So, but now you notice that it's not rendering. And then one of the reasons for that is because with um when you're doing a component, uh for safety, you're not able to access this component unless you export it. So you don't, there might be some functions that, you don't want to, and this is just with So this is a JavaScript thing in general. So like with functions, um, you you might want to keep your function, what's the word, contained to this specific file. You don't want different parts of your application to be able to access certain types of functions, because then that can create a safety issue in terms of security. So what we would want to do is we want to export this function. So the way this, oops, oh my goodness. So what we do here is we're going to export default and then header. So so just like a normal function, we create this function, declare this function, and then now we are exporting this function. And then so the way, so we got the export, which is obvious. So default is when you export a default, that means when you are referencing this component, uh, is going to default the header. So when you try to reference this file, it's going to export, the default is going to be header. So it's going to think that you're looking for header. However, you can create multiple functions and you can export them as well. Um, but we will definitely see that later for sure. So now that we exported it, we would need to we need to import it. So the way we do that is thanks to IntelliSense. It helps us. So it since we exported it, IntelliSense knows that IntelliSense has access to it, so it knows like when we start typing it out, okay, I see that there's a component or yeah, a function that I am able to access that starts with this, and then IntelliSense is able to complete that for us, and then we're able to easily import that. So it is importing it from relative to where we are currently. So the app.js is in the root. So the dot is telling us to go, we're going to go um, to our parent folder. So that's what it is. So the app.js is inside of the source folder. I said root, but I meant source. So we are in the source folder. So this dot is telling, it means the parent. So it's going to go out into this. So now it's going to take us into this dot puts us into the source folder. Now we're going to go into the components, and now we're going to go into the header file. And then that's how it knows where to go to access that. So um, now if we were to go now importing it, we can see that it's being rendered on our homepage. Oop. We good on that?
Yeah, I'm just suddenly
No,
cannot remember how to um my thing has changed a little bit and I was trying to remember how to make it this chat box that won't go away. How to make it display on the in a browser. I suddenly can't remember how to let's see, make it do that.
the the actual code itself or starting up the server.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If
Oops.
you wanna, yeah, if you want to share your screen, we can
Okay.
just to make sure we're on the same. Like I said, the like when we talked about when I broke down the anatomy on Wednesday, we was going through all those files. It can get confusing because that was one of the things that I got confused about. I was like, okay, wait, which one do I got to put it in for it to show on the home? You know, and
Right.
it takes some muscle memory. It's weird.
Yeah. And it just is not memory that I have yet.
Yeah, it comes with practice, just being around it. that type. Messing up, messing up
Uh-huh.
stuff is where you learn. Where I learn the most, I should say.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely get that. Oops. It's telling me that I'm not allowed to share.
Oh, oh, yes, Brian is the host. Okay. Well, we can walk through it. That's no worries. So
Okay.
you have it in. So you have your header component, right?
I do. Yeah, I've got my header component, and I
So
can't
we
remember how to like how to make it go in the browser to like see what I've done for some reason.
like okay. So are you when you say see what you've done, you mean like the changes that you made, like it renders your changes, like if you
Yeah,
do
yeah,
the
yeah.
okay. So yeah, so are you I would go to the app.jsx file
Okay.
and then this is where did you already import the header?
I did. Yes.
Okay, so import and then we declaring it here, right? Or we
Oh,
use the element like we have our home
oh,
tag.
I didn't put that in there. Okay. All right.
Sorry, yeah, I put it in first and then I went through to show like it didn't work without the import and then
Okay.
so yeah, I should have reiterated that part. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. I was asleep at the wheel apparently, and I just completely did not notice that. Okay.
Yeah, we have the header tag,
Got
the
it. Okay.
title prop, and then of course our home, the string with what we want to call it. So it's
Okay.
rendering for you
Got
now.
Well, that's the thing. I can't remember how to make it render. Like, how do you open that browser window?
Oh, the browser window. Okay.
It's like a super
Our
basic thing. I suddenly can't remember.
no, you're fine. You're fine. So, if you go in your terminal and then you do the npm run dev, if it's not already,
Okay.
if your server is not already running.
Okay.
So that is how you start the vdev server.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So is it running for you now?
I've okay. Let's see now.
Yeah, it's if you need to see, it's right here as well. Yeah, if you can see that, it just npm run dev and so you want to make sure that you're in the mill or yeah, the project folder,
Hmm.
and then you run that npm run dev, and then it will tell you here, I'll just kill it real quick. So npm run dev, and then it'll tell you where it's located at, that localhost 5173.
Okay. All right. All right, so I do have that press H plus enter to show help, and then I typed in npm run dev at that point, or have I already got
You
it running if I've typed that, if it
yeah,
shows
so
that? Okay.
if you see this, then two lines above that you should see it defaults to localhost 5173, so you can type in
Mhm.
the localhost on port 5173, and
Okay.
then you should see it in your browser.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I understand. Okay.
Does it make sense? Sorry.
That makes sense. Yes. There we go. Okay.
Showing for you now?
Yes, I'm with you now. Okay. Sorry about that. I
Perfect.
don't know why I just could not remember how to do that all of a sudden.
No, you are perfectly fine. Hey, like I said, muscle memory. There's so much. Like so you're gonna get to a point like because everything individually seems easy. The hard part is like bringing everything together all at once, all the time. So it's just getting used to that, and you'll get there. It's just like like when you show up to a new building or something, you're like this is crazy. But then once you start getting used to the building, you're just like you forget that you were there at one point. You be like you don't know how to get to the crazy geomet through the crazy geometric building.
Yeah, yeah. It's like school or something. I don't know where
Yeah.
my math class is, and then you
Yeah,
go,
exactly.
on muscle memory. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. But no, this is
Thank
this is
you.
why we do these things because when you run into it and then, so it's part of the course, like don't ever feel bad about it because like I said, we all been through it. Uh, so it's par for the course and it's perfectly normal and it's what you should expect to go through as you get used to these type of things. Okay. So we're rendering our home. Perfect. So a lot of the time, or do you have any other questions before we continue on?
No, I'm just delighted that because that just was kind of a big click for me. So thank you.
Oh, oh, no, I'm happy it was. Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, like I said, we're gonna be having some some clicking moments sometimes. So so that's what I hope to hear. Okay. So we got that. So now we're actually going to do the same thing. We're going to create a new component. Uh, one thing I'm pretty sure I don't know. I don't know if there's a tool, but I'm pretty sure um there's a tool for pretty much everything it seems like. So I'm sure you can find a tool that helps you start well, first let's get through this part. So we're going to create a new file. So in the components folder, we're going to create a new file and call it body.jsx. And then similar to how we did our a header, we're going to do function body, and then we're going to do oh yeah, oops, I almost forgot data. We're going to pass the data prop, which so our data we can pass pretty much anything. It could be um like an array, it could be an object, it could be whatever we want it to be at this time. Uh, so then we're gonna have our I don't know why I kept like that. We're gonna do our return, and then for here we're gonna do a p tag, and then we're just going to return our data. So typically when you're creating a prop, this one's kind of generic, but typically when you're creating a prop, you typically want it to be declarative of what it's going to be used for, right? So like in the header we had text, like oh yeah, the title, it's going to be for the title. So you typically want it to be declarative, but sometimes it might be necessary for it to be generic like this so that you could parse through it in different ways depending on what your needs are. And then now we know we need to export this function. We can do that export, but another thing we can do is we can actually export it at the declaration. So you can actually export it here as well when you're declaring that function. It's this is my preferred method. It's a little bit cleaner to me. And it's also like if I am if I'm exporting other functions out of here as well, then it also separates them because then you typically know that this is going to be your default for the most part. There are some cases where even the component is not going to be your default. The main component is not going to be your default, but you know, it's coding. Everything is a case by case. And so you might see some weird things out there in the wild. So now we have our body with our data prop. We'll go back to our app.jsx and then we'll use it. So first we have to import it. So we'll import body and then IntelliSense uh, auto completes it for us. Or actually, here I'll since one of the things is since obviously our IntelliSense it can see our body exists because we're exporting it now. So another thing you can do, another trick is if you want to save some typing, you can actually start to type out that function, that tag you see here, and it uh imports it for us. It doesn't necessarily auto complete the tag for us, but it imports it for you so that way it saves you some typing and having to import it manually. But you do have to be careful. I mean, you have to be careful either way, but you want to make sure like if you have something similar exported functions throughout your code, because you might when as you import packages, some packages will have files that share names like function export or expose functions that share names. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to where it's coming from. So that's why you'll here, let me do it like this. That's why you'll notice that it always shows you the relative path to make sure that it's coming from the right area. Because like this one's showing React router, so like you want to make sure we are bringing in the correct one because that's also a common problem. So a lot of packages, when you're using different packages, a lot of them will have things that share names, and then that can create issues. So we're going to use our data, and the data in this case, well, actually, this would be a good time to show. Let's see. Okay. So this would be a good time to show passing a variable in there. So for here, I just put the body text and it just equals this is the body. Very simple. So now for our data, it's going to equal body text. So now in JSX, we're using these curly braces, which and when we're doing in our return statement, which is telling our JSX to escape from using uh, the HTML like syntax and to recognize this as a variable of some sort so that we're going to access it and then use its data.
A question about
So
that.
yes,
Is that like a is it like template literal? Is that like basically what that is?
yes. So
Okay.
JSX is just like very a giant temperate literal that just looks a little better and it looks like the yeah, it implements with the whole HTML code so you don't have to constantly put the man, I'm forgetting the words of everything today. But yeah, so you don't have to put the backticks. Yeah, so
Okay.
the backticks, yeah, so you don't have to constantly have your code doesn't have to be riddled with backticks. It's so like you if you know because sometimes it's easy like when you're going through and you're doing HTML, it's easy to go through a div and then do a p tag, but then now you gotta finagle it and do and make it look all uh do all this stuff just to be able to input it. But now it's just simple because now you can just do you know body text and then it looks a little bit better. It's easier to read. It's easier to maintain, in my opinion. Uh, a lot of people get opinionated when it comes to different technologies and programming. But now you should see on your code that it's being rendered. This is the body. So that's what. So when earlier when I was saying the the prop, a lot of the time that data will come from the parent component. So in this case, the app itself, this app component is the parent component. So any component that you use within your component, that component is the child component. So the header is now the child component of this app component. And of course, the header can be the child component of many different components, but in this context, it is the child component. So now we're using this text that's declared in our parent component, this variable that's declared in our parent component, and we're passing it to our body component, and then now it's going to our body and being recognized as the data prop, and now we're able to access that data using that data prop and render it in this component. So it's a like it's a little confusing because it's the hallways, right? Like we talked about, you go into a new building, it's the hallways and seeing how they're routed and all that stuff. So it takes some getting used to. I'll tell you, just being persistent will help you get over that. It can be a little bit discouraging, especially as you get more components and stuff like that. I say discouraging, it can be it's just like it's just a little it can get overwhelming, but it's just uh being persistent through that and just getting used to like being able to navigate these things because then you'll start to understand it a little bit more. One of the things is just you never should expect to understand the full picture of like where everything is going, how it's routed, and all that stuff. Because when you're building like a full project, there's going to be so many things, so many elements to it. you'd have to be like one of those people who can't forget anything to be able to to remember all this stuff. So that's why it's built like this. It's because it makes it easier to track it down because I can go, okay, wait, this is the bot. This is being rendered from the body component. Now I know we have our components folder. Now I know just to go to my components folder, look at the body, um, and then now I'm in the body. Okay, I see it's being used here. So it kind of being able to know where to go is a lot more helpful than remembering everything. So knowing how to use the map is a lot more beneficial than remembering where every like office or classroom is in the building. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So if you think about it like that, um then it's a lot more beneficial as you go on because it can get overwhelming pretty quickly if you're trying to navigate these things and remember all these things and all that fun stuff. And I definitely appreciate the questions for sure because my main goal is making sure that you're understanding this and comfortable. And because it can, like I said, I like React. I think React is fun. I think it's cool, especially like after learning like the basics and then you see how it's like applying it. So my goal is to make sure that you appreciate it for what it is, whether at the end of the day, whether you like the technology or not. Because we may start React, but you might find passion with another tool. But React is there's a lot of concepts in React that you'll see in other things as well. So I more so like I like React for what it is, but I also like, the structure of it and all that stuff. So that's what we really want to focus on. And then just getting used to this stuff, really. Okay. So we got our home body, and then another element you will see, always do that, is the footer. Oops. So we'll create the footer.jsx, and then this one will just be the same. So export default footer, and then let's do. In fact, we'll just leave this one. This one. So then we'll return. What? Mm, 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 mm. Oh, did I mess something up? Uh-oh, what did I go wrong? Oh, I always do that. So see, you'll see I do this all the time and then I forget little things. So one thing I did forget is I forgot to actually put that it was a function. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. Sorry. Yeah, sometimes I'll like start typing and then like I'll be like I'll think, oh, function, and then my brain will like think it typed out function, but then we'll just all right. So then we got our footer, and then same thing. We're gonna come here, and then we'll do the shorthand. So we'll just start to type it in, and then let it complete, and then we'll go and we'll see that is. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll go and see that it is now rendered. Sorry if I'm moving too fast. Just let me know.
I think my server died for some reason. I'm gonna restart.
It does that sometimes. Ooh. Is it coming back up for you?
I am seeing if I can figure it out.
No worries. Let me know
Okay.
when you are ready,
All right.
or if you need any help. What kind of error is it giving you?
Oh, it was I don't know. It threw me completely out and it got me back into my and then I got back into my GitHub, but then I couldn't remember how to get back into the meal database server.
Oh, gotcha.
I couldn't remember what those commands were. So I was looking up from Wednesday how to do that because I could not remember what the okay.
So yeah, so the because it placed it in. You said it was in your. If I remember, it was in your GitHub, right? Your
It
GitHub.
was, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay. I'm having more trouble with my server today. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to ask for help before I get too far down. All right. So it's my server is Laura at Laura's MacBook Pro,
Mhm.
GitHub, and then I don't know what to type from there.
Okay, so you're in the terminal, right?
Hmm.
Okay. A nice little trick would be if you type in ls and hit enter,
Okay.
it should list out all the items in that directory that you're currently in.
Oh, okay. I want MealDB. What? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then yeah, then you would cd into MillDB.
That's what I forgot. Okay. All right. And then it's npm start or npm run.
npm run dev.
Run dead. Okay.
Yeah,
One
that's
day. Okay.
yeah, like I said, there's a
Okay.
yeah.
Now let's refresh this and see if something happens. Oh, this might be another 5174. That might help if I was on the right thing.
Oh, it sent you to 174?
It had it, okay. It did
Because
now.
Yeah, because then right above that, it probably says something along the lines of like 173 was already used or something in use or something. Because
Yes, it does say that. Yeah.
we gotta.
Oh,
It happens sometimes, but yeah, we got a wild rogue server out there. Um,
it,
when we get if we have some time, I'll show you how to. There's a process that you can do to kill loose servers because sometimes it happens. Sometimes you'll have a server that might error out or crash, but it doesn't free up that port. So there's ways you
uh-huh.
can free it up. It's not
Okay.
really that important right now. Um, it's just like if you're like sometimes if you're like me, it bothers me just knowing it's just out there.
Sure. Being used and not doing anything.
Yeah, so I like to clean it up where I can.
Okay. Weirdly, so I'm on the news server on the browser and I'm not seeing anything that it's just a blank thing for some reason.
It's just a blank.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the server saying?
Okay. So it just says local HTTP, the local host colon 5174 slash. And then whenever I go there, there's nothing there.
Okay. And then did so we finished our footer, correct?
All right. Okay,
Or-
this is the footer.
So this the footer.
Okay, footer. Let's look and see. Did I finish the footer? It's a good question. Okay, this is the footer. Yeah, looks like I did.
Okay, we got the footer. We imported it in to the app.jsx. Cause was
Yes.
were you seeing the body?
I was seeing the body before.
Okay, so yeah. And then and then we declare yeah, so we declared our footer, we're using our footer, and then what happens if you get rid of the footer?
Okay, let's see. It comes back. Now I see the things.
Yeah, so so
Okay.
that's good. This is why we do it this way. It's because so we can run into these problems because this is a problem I definitely ran into. So what that tells us is that it's an issue with the footer. Um so something with the footer is causing an issue, which it could be um if we didn't export it correctly. These are some common issues. If we didn't export it correctly, which it wouldn't auto complete it for you if you didn't. If we have like a loose tag somewhere, um, like we forgot to close one off, or it depends on how we did our return statement, because sometimes how we do the return statement, like I know it could give you an issue depending on if you do a curly versus the parentheses. And then if we have like a, I know, let me see. Hey, Brian, are you there by chance? I know he's gonna be in and out. Let's see, how do we do? Let me try something real quick. Oh wait, let's see. Oh, okay. I see. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, it does it smoothly. Perfect. Okay, so if you want, you should be able to request to share your screen now. Oh,
It would help if I took off my music. It's
oh
telling me
yeah.
that I'm not allowed.
Okay, let me fix that. Um, oh brother. Let's see. It just outright says you're not allowed.
It says someone else is sharing. The host isn't allowing
Oh,
multiple presenters sharing for this meeting.
here, well then I'll just stop sharing. Okay, you should be able to share now.
Okay. Oh, I can share. Okay.
Okay, so then, yeah, so we'll go to our footer component. So yeah, our footer file, export, default function, footer, return. This is the footer. That definitely looks right to me. And then we'll go to our, just go to the app.jsx. And then, oh, do the footer again. I see the problem, I think, maybe. So, okay, I see what's happening.
Oops.
Because did you hit space or enter? Like when
I
it,
hit, oh, I hit, I don't know. I think I hit, I'm not sure.
so yeah, when you're typing out the footer, it's giving
Hmm.
you the option to autocomplete it. I think you got to hit enter with that for it to
Okay.
autocomplete.
Okay.
So it wasn't the footer was not being imported.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So now that it's being imported, it should work.
Okay. Let's see what we've got. Yay, it does work.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. All right. I'll stop sharing. Thank you.
Of course. Happy to help. Okay. So I'll share this again. All right. So now, with that being said, any questions about components or anything like that? Is this,
I don't think so.
yeah, it's pretty straightforward, not necessarily simple, but there's still a lot with them to make up. It's gonna take some muscle memory to get used to the composition of it. Uh, so I will go ahead and I will actually I'm gonna create a thread and then I'll create a thread and then share these later for reference. Just in case you want it for reference, just to see like the little component makeup, just to remember how like these things, and then I'll do one with the export so we remember the export as well. But so with that, we'll move on to the next one, which is going to be our favorite thing of installing and setting up some packages. So one of the things we are going to be working on is um, we're going to be using Tailwind and Daisy UI. So I like to Cool. So, uh, here we go. So this is what Tailwind is. So this is a good example of what I was saying. You get that inline. It uses the class, and you have your inline. So it does so you install the Tailwind packages. It sets up how we remember, like when we were doing HTML, we had our class and we would have our CSS file, and we would set up different classes in our CSS file. And we would style our classes in the CSS file, and then we would use that class on a element, and it would style that element. With Tailwind, what it does is it has all its own predefined classes, and it configs it so that when you when you assign the class, all you do is use those predefined classes from Tailwind, and it applies those stylings automatically. And then, so that's one of the very cool things about Tailwind. As you know, with CSS, there's a lot of different styling features that you can use. So Tailwind pretty much captures all of those and allows you to shorthand them and in a line, so you don't have to keep going back and forth between a CSS file and Tailwind. Up front, a lot of people don't like Tailwind because doing all of these classes can make it look a little clunky, um, which is fair criticism, but it's also convenient, and it also can be mitigated by using, if you do use what's the word I'm looking for? Like using the components, and then um and all that stuff. And I know there's actually a really good tool for handling the clunkiness as well, which is, I know Daisy you there's another tool, um I forget the name of it, that helps with that. Okay. So what Daisy UI is similar to Tailwind, which is uh kind of why I picked it. Daisy UI is kind of like a library is what we call them, but not necessarily. So it's styling. It's using the styles to be able to uh make your components style in a certain way. So for instance, the button, Daisy UI, you just type in, it does this similar to when you use the class name. So you put this in the class, uh, yeah, in the class attribute, and then Daisy UI on the back end will style it for you in this template. So you have the button, like the button neutral, this one is, and it just does the styling for you. It even handles when you hover over the button. So that's one of the benefits you get with using packages like Tailwind and Daisy UI, because it saves you a lot of time on having to go through and manually create your own styling and component library for all these different things. Uh, it's a lot of programming is why reinvent, the wheel or all that stuff. Just being able to reuse these type of things saves you a lot of time. So you don't have to go through and then you also don't have to maintain your own component library. It Granted, you can still create your own variations of these. So like we would create our own button, and we'll make the button look however we want to, so that way we can use it throughout our application. But we don't have to create that foundation. It's been created for us. So we'll go ahead and I'll copy this into the Slack so that we can have it. But we'll go ahead and first we'll install Tailwind. So we just go here. And if you Yeah, you could do it along with me. So for this, we'll have to kill our server, which would be the control C. That'll stop the server. And then we can just paste it. And then it's just gonna install. So Tailwind is also really helpful because it has these packages specifically for different frameworks that you're using. So we're using Vite. They have their Tailwind Vite, and it also helps expedite this configuration process. So we'll go ahead and install that. So it added our packages. And then while we're at it, we'll just go ahead and install the Daisy UI as well. And added one package. Any issues with that? All right. So when I should have mentioned it, but yeah. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our Vite config. Um, we can, let me copy this actually. Let me see how it's configured. Okay, so with this one, I'm gonna paste it in the Slack. You can actually replace the Vite config with what I just pasted in the Slack. Oh, whoa, need that. And so this is just in our I say Vite. See, I always say Vite, but Vite. But Vite, so we have our config file. So this is essentially telling Vite, hey, we want to use Tailwind with our project, and then it has the plugin. It's telling it to use these plugin so that it's allowing access to this plugin so that we can use it throughout our project. And let me know if you have any issues with that.
Okay, I think I'm good. It was having issues with didn't like the quotation marks for some reason and wanted me to delete those and retype those. But once I got that, then all
Over.
the red squiggles went
I know.
away. So it's weird.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a little weird. Oh, and they were red squiggles. Okay. Sometimes when you're setting up some stuff with Tailwind, you'll come across where you'll have like some yellow squiggles. The yellow squiggles necessarily don't mean that it's an issue. Sometimes it's just the way the editor just is just it just doesn't like them. It just doesn't understand what we're necessarily trying to do. And there's workarounds for that, but I mean, a lot of people just don't care because it doesn't actually affect anything. So, so it's just like a personal preference type thing. Uh, and then so the next thing we are going to do, uh, for the first time since we've been here, we're going to actually access the index.css file. So this is where we will probably see some yellow squiggles actually. So, and I'll paste these. So for the index file. So hold up. I thought I was trying to do a Slack command. Oops. Okay. So, um, yeah. So these import tags. So you just copy these two import, well, the import and the plugin tags that I pasted into the Slack, and then you're gonna go to the source index.css, and so those go at the very top. I haven't So this is where we get a yellow squiggly line that most of the time shouldn't be an issue. Uh, and then all this code. So yeah, we post that at the very top. Oh, let me get rid of this. Sometimes you might have issues, depending on what plugins you're using. So the order actually matters, when you are using these type of things. So sometimes you might have issues where it comes down to where, and the it may not necessarily be clear, but you might have issues to where it's the import order, like the order that you're putting these in. So sometimes you might have to play around and move the order around and all that fun stuff. Uh, we shouldn't have that issue, but like if you're using different plugins and different tools, that's just something to be considerate of. Um, so this is right now, this is all the code that makes our project do the background, all that stuff, and the way the styled, the header tag, the style. This is what is making it look like that. You can keep it how it is. You can get rid of it. It's up to you. I think for this module, a lot of like as we're going along, a lot of the styling stuff, just like the recent ones as well, is going to be up to you. So, however you want it to be styled as we go along, as we're doing this, a lot of the stuff we're going to be doing is going to be like functionality wise is going to be the same, like while we're learning, but a lot of the stuff is going to be like, up to how you want to set it up and do all that stuff just because we want you to be able to get used to working with this, and then also like have fun, like have some fun with it, being able to do whatever you want with that type of stuff, and just like y'all been doing throughout the module. So feel free to keep that up as well. uh so now we are going to test. um yeah, we are going to test it. So we'll go to our components, and then we'll just go to our body component, body file. And then this is here where you're going to notice a little bit of a difference between, since we're using React versus just vanilla Java, or not vanilla JavaScript, but plain JavaScript, just regular JavaScript, is when we're declaring a class, in React, we have to type it as class name. The reason is because we're still using JavaScript under the hood, and JavaScript is using class. So we have to use class name uh instead of just a regular class. So we're going to test if this is working. So one way we could do that is, let's see, or yeah, it may not. Well, hold up, I might. Oh, that should be it. Oh, I think. Where are we at? Where are we at? Did I mess up something? Okay, let's do it. Let me make sure I'm doing. It might be. Let me see.
Is it because we killed our servers?
You know what? We did kill our server, didn't
Because I
we?
just remembered, I just realized that because I had the same problem.
I was like, wait a minute, am I going crazy? Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, I usually for my server, I usually have my server and my one on the editor. I'm usually running my server here, and then I have another terminal for where I install everything. So that's what I'm used to. I'm used to. So yeah, npm run now. So let's start that back up. Good catch. Thank you.
Yay.
That typically that typically should be you should check your server for these type of things. Okay, there it goes. Okay, so yeah. So now you see that it changed the color of the text. Uh so we do the text green, and then so here uh Tailwind is telling obviously the text we want to affect our text. This is the color we want it to be, and then this is the what's the term for it? Basically I forget the technical term. What is the basically how deep of the color you want it to be. I always forget that technical term, but yeah, the how they use it. But yeah, so it's basically essentially saying like how deep of a green you want, because 900 and 200 see is a darker shade. Basically the shade of the color that you want. So from like when you're going through it, you can experiment with it. Sorry, I'm you probably looking at the code, but yep. So yeah. So that's one of the cool things about Tailwind, because then you can also do text, and then you can do 2XL, which is extra extra large, and it makes it bigger. So but then so is it working for you on your end?
It was, and then I tried to, it turned green and everything, and then I tried to do the 2XL thing, and then it stopped. It wouldn't, oh, I forgot something. Oops. Okay. Here we go. It helps if I follow directions.
No
Okay.
worries, sorry. I'm
I'm
moving
good,
kind of
thank you.
fast. So if I'm moving
You're
fast,
good.
just tell me slow down. But yeah, so but yeah, so you know so yeah, this is essentially Tailwind, and then that trick I mentioned earlier when you're going through and you want to access different things, the on Mac it's Command K, but you can also do that here and you can search it because there's like I said, there's so many things, and since even if you remembered all of CSS and all the different the different properties and all that stuff, you would still have to correlate that with Tailwind because they do things a little bit differently. So if you wanted to, like we changed the text size, if you wanted to adjust the text size, you can say, or it's font size in here. I get confused because they call it font size, but they still declare it as text, the text. So that it can be a little bit confusing, but in actual CSS, it is the font size. So, but they for to make it a little bit less complex, they just use all the same because it's easier to do text color, text size, so that's also another advantage. And then that's where you see where we did the 2XL, and then it also tells you uh what it equates to. So um the one uh the 1.5 REM, and then which comes out to 24 pixels, all that good stuff. Um Another thing you can do, which I think is pretty cool, is use arbitrary values. So instead, let's say I wanted my text size to be a specific size, and say you can use the bracket, and then you would just type out, it's going to be crazy, but 200 pixel, and you go over here and it's the 200 pixels. So it's, like I said, it's going to be crazy, but you can also do any, like the normal size, what you would normally use. Like you could do the 10%, and it's extremely small. Like you can barely, it's there, but you can barely see it. So let me do like the, actually, let's do 200%. Oops, I forgot about I love my, so you can also use arbitrary values. So that way you can uh, actually put in a specific value if need be. Okay. And then, so, oh, so one thing we'll do, we'll go ahead and change this because I put it as a p tag. We'll change the p tag into a div. Okay. Yeah, I already changed. I forgot. I'm using I don't know if you noticed, a little weird, but like when I changed this div, I don't remember if we introduced this to y'all earlier on, but when I changed this div, it's because I'm using a tool. I forget the name of the tool. I can share it later in the Slack, but it allows you when you change one tag, it changes the other one automatically for you. So it makes it easier because like if you have a bunch of this in one file, you can get lost sometimes, and it makes it a little bit faster and easier. So I'll share that as well. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna change this to a div, and then uh, actually, and then let's leave the green, but let's get rid of the changing the text size, and then we are going to, we'll go ahead and put, here, we'll do it like this. We're gonna add a button, or actually, we'll just do it like this. We'll make it a p tag. Well, okay, let me revert because I forgot we can do that. Sorry. So we're gonna leave it as a p tag. We're gonna get rid of this text because we can do that. We're not actually. This is for demonstration purposes. So this part is gonna. So we've seen Tailwind. This part is gonna demonstrate how Daisy UI works. UI standing for user interface. So this is gonna be we're gonna turn this into a button with just a few words. So with Daisy, it's gonna be button. So we need to do the button, and then we're gonna do the button primary to tell it to what styling it should use for our button, and then it turns it into a button. So if you yeah. So then, oh, wrong one. So then you see it turns it into a button. And even though it's not an actual link or anything, it's still clickable. So, and it reacts to us hovering on it. And it looks kind of crazy because it's taking up the full width, but demonstrations. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get rid of that. Oop, that goes back. Any questions about Tailwind, Daisy UI? That was kind of like a little quick crash course just to introduce it. We're gonna get a lot more practice as we go along with it. No? Okay. So I will show. So I showed you Tailwind, and of course, like I said, with most tech sites, you're gonna have this feature to be able to search. A lot of sites do it, but you should definitely expect it on sites, especially on documentation websites like this one. You'd be able to go search. So like, if we wanted to create a um so that was the button. So we did do the button. So I already showed the button. So if we want to do a card. Cards are pretty common. So like you've probably seen cards plenty of times where they have this excuse me, they have this little make out where it's basically like a box, but they do a little subtle box shadow to make it look like the card is raised from the page. But you see, like, yeah, anytime like you're like basically like something that offers a subscription, you see it a lot of times with those. So we see cards all the time, and Daisy also makes it easily accessible to us to be able to use this card. So one of the things you will be able to see is uh you be able to so it shows you the card, but then you also be able to see the code preview. This is really helpful of how that makeup is. So like you can go in here. So this is HTML, but also it has JSX for React because React is so popular. Um, so it even shows the JSX for it. Notice how similar they look from HTML to JSX. Um, but yeah, so here you can see like um, for instance with the card, it has this card. So notice like this is the Daisy UI, so it has the card. Uh, yeah, the card. So you're declaring that as a card, and then in one of the child component or yeah elements, it has the card body and then a card title. So these are the makeups of it. And then it tells you. So when you're going through, we have like we seen that card. This is the component, right? The card, like the top level, what it says, the component, like the main component class. So the main element on your page that you want to look like a card, this is where you declare that card. And then this is the part, so the card title, which is the title part. So like which part we're gonna set up for our title and so on. So you see this structure a lot because as you saw, we had this very similar structure here with our tailwind. So you can expect to see this a lot and then but it also gives you like, the different things you can do with it. For instance, like the size, like you can change the car size with it, make it extra small or extra large, all this fun stuff. Um, so it's gonna handle the way that card looks for you. So it's pretty cool, and it's real helpful. So you don't have to go through and like somebody did it for us. Somebody uh took out time of their day to do this, and this is something that we're able to use for the most part free. Like all of this is free. They have some premium features if you want to take advantage of them, but for the most part, you really don't need them. Most like Daisy UI and Tailwind, they usually most of the premium the functionality wise is going to be free, but most of their premium stuff is they're selling like kits, like theme kits and like different things to large companies that they can take advantage of. So you should be able to expect to use these type of things for free, which is crazy because this is possible because people like you and me who just have free time, who have passion for it, decide to build this out so that we can take advantage of it uh and be able to use it. And you'll notice that's pretty common theme, which is crazy to me that this industry is just full of people who have passion and like makes our job easier just because it's something that they love to do and that they're doing this stuff like I said for passion. Like a lot of the stuff is free and they're making their money from like donations or using premium feature. They're only charging the top companies, and you'd be surprised to know that a lot of these top companies are actually a lot of the ones that are donating to these projects. So it's like it's for me it's mind-boggling because you don't see that very often. You it's like you think it's like overly competitive. You think people want to gatekeep and try to make a profit off it, but programming world really isn't like that. And um and it's very inclusive and everybody wants everybody to succeed, it seems like, for the most part, right? But so um that's one of the really cool things I love about it. But so you'll see that like if you're ever wondering like why, like what's the catch with this project, it's just like there's a lot of passion behind it, and then a lot of these people like a lot of these projects survive off of donations. Some of them are open source, so other people contributing to the program and all that stuff. So like if you ever find a project that you're passionate about, you'll see that somebody will like donate to it. Or, hey, if you ever come across a an issue that you feel like, you can create a solution for, then hey, you can you can do something similar if you so choose, right? Okay, so now that we got that set up, do you have any questions? Nope. Okay, pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's a little confusing, but at the same time, it's still pretty straightforward. Okay. So we talked about the class name. So traditional HTML is just uses that class. Like as we mentioned, since we are what we essentially did when we used the JavaScript expression JSX, we're moving our HTML into JavaScript essentially. JavaScript actually uses class, so we can't use it that way, the HTML version, without creating conflicts. So we use class name to replace it, and then and, and on the back end, it transforms it to this HTML class. All right. So now we're going to talk about the basis for our project, which is going to be using the API. Um, which is the MillDB. So one of the reasons I use it because it's a free public API, so we don't need to make an account or use a. Yeah, we shouldn't need to make an account. I don't remember. Yeah, we should need to make an account if I remember correctly because it's public. So all the stuff we'd be able to access publicly. So you don't need an API key or nothing like that. And then like it's still like a good API. You can query it and be able to pass these query parameters and be able to get like specific categories like seafood. So seafood is going to return meals that are in the seafood category, and then you'll notice like each meal has an ID, name, and thumbnail. So it's going to return actual links with that resolve to actual picture images. So I'm giving an example, which is this. This crazy. This is the yeah, it looks crazy. So this is an actual response that we're gonna get when we go to fetch an API, especially this one. And then so luckily for us, uh Chrome makes it easy because they have the pretty print, so they make it look good for us. Which is this is what we've seen before is JSON. Um so you say we have an array of objects. So this is meals. And then we have um yeah. So notice I said I did say that they have an ID, name, and thumbnail. And I did say I picked this API because it's kind of what's the word? A good word for it. It's it's something. It's really good API. It has everything we need, but it doesn't. I said it has ID, but it doesn't say it's just not ID, right? It's ID mill, and then the name you kind of gotta infer what the name is based on here, right? So is it has the str mill, str standing for string, so string mill, but that looks like this is gonna be our name, right? So it's not necessarily clear. So is this is an API that's gonna take some kind of deciphering, like what is what, being able to because a lot of the times, like you're gonna see some production level, some production ready APIs, like where their API is the service, but sometimes you're gonna see like where you're using a service and the API is an extension of that service. Um, so they kind of just put them together. So you might see this sometime. You can expect to see this. And APIs come in all shapes and sizes, right? So this is just an example of it. So what is it? And I said that we were gonna have a thumbnail, right? Well, it's not listed as thumbnail. It's is string or str meal thumb, right? So they use shorthand for thumb. So your initial impression, if you're not familiar with this API, you're not gonna know what thumb means. So you kind of got to look at it and understand the context. We're like, okay, this is a link and it has a JPG extension, which is an image. So now we can kind of infer that it's a thumbnail. And if we go here, it's an actual image. So that's what it resolves to. So it's actually bringing an image. I don't know if I would eat that though, but uh uh okay, yeah, yeah. So Spain. Okay, so yeah. So this is the API that we're going to be using. This is how we're going to be getting the data for our recipe application. You could say that we're going to build out, and you can see it. This is the seafood category, and there's a lot of meals to to access. So we're going to learn how to be able to go through access each of these and then render them. It won't be you being able to use React to be able to render these different meals out without having to go through and hard code each and every single one, uh, and all that fun stuff. Any questions about that? No. Yeah. Pretty straightforward. Okay. With that, I think it's a good time for a break. Um, so I do about a 20-minute break. So I think we can be back on at 12:25 would be good. and then we'll start from there. All right. All right. See you then. All right. Well, hope you had a good break. Okay, we'll go ahead and jump right back in. Okay. So, for right now, I showed you the API, but for right now, we're gonna be just working with some just some samples. So a few of the items from the seafood API. We're just gonna take a couple of those, and then we're just going to actually hard code them into our project for now. Uh, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna put this in the Slack first. Uh, actually, hold on, let me do this. I should have did this from the start. I'm gonna do a just start a thread and put it in here, and I'll probably just copy all the other stuff in here as well. I put it in the so that module for day two message. I put it in there. We got the sample mill, so you should be able to copy that here shortly. Okay. And then actually, okay. So in the source folder, we'll just go ahead and for now just create a new um file, and we can just call it mill data. With this one, we can just do JS, so mill data.js, and then that sample data, we'll just paste it in. And this is an example of where you can just use a pure JavaScript file. You can call it a JSX and it will still be fine, but it makes it pretty clear that this is just going to be pure JavaScript. And then, so I'm showing you this way just to show you like another way we can pull like sample data. You could realistically paste this in the same file where you're going to use that component. Uh, It rendered the images. That's funny. But yeah. But you could in the Slack it put the images. But in yeah, you could realistically put this in the same file that wherever you're going to use that component. Um I just like to keep it separated because I like to keep my components minimum where I can. So it does mean you got to create another file and then import it. But personally, that's my preference. There's no right or wrong way. It's just personal preference, and then also whatever if you're working in a project, whatever the standard is for that project.
Mine is it's not liking it's having that weird quotation thing
Uh-huh.
again, so I'm kind of just deleting and replacing the quotations. And it doesn't like the commas either. I'm wondering if it should I
The
replace them with
commas.
yeah,
Did
semicolons or
did you got the did you make sure you got the full from the const to the end of the array? Or yeah, the
Ye-
array.
yes.
Hmm. You mind sharing? I want to see what it's doing. So
Yeah.
I'll stop sharing, and I just
Okay.
kind of want to see.
It's pretty weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it should have pasted cleanly. Should have. Hmm. Yeah, I can't say that is strange. Uh, what amazing. Because sample mills. Where is it going? Uh, why is it doing this? I let's see. Oh, let me look at my ID mill con. Yep, yep, yep. Um, I don't think this is gonna fix it, but real quick, let's try this. If you want to go into the terminal and then just kill the server with the control C, and then type in npm install.
Okay. Oops.
Uh, and yeah, it's up to date. And then okay, well then let's see. Header, open header. We got that. So we did the mail data.js. Uh, so it's you say it's not like in the quotations.
Yeah, it realizes I for some reason I have to like I'll just sort of show you I had to delete them and then retype them and then it recognizes, oh, okay, yeah, that's a string. But then it also doesn't seem to like the commas for some reason.
Mhm.
Oh, I wonder if I should just retype the comma. Maybe it'll like that for some reason. No, it doesn't. Okay. But yeah, for some reason it has an issue with commas.
It could be a okay. Let's try this as well.
Okay.
Uh, delete your. Well, let me see.
Okay.
Actually, let me see which one is it. Okay, so let's do this. Delete your node modules. This folder. This is a common troubleshooting. I'm not sure why it's doing that. It's something with because if you're just retyping the same thing anyway, I I don't think I've actually. I feel like yeah. Okay, so let's try it. So in the MillDB where you see the node modules folder, so
Uh-huh.
you're gonna delete that.
Okay, delete that whole thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is that's what's built out when you do like the npm install. It's gonna
Uh-huh.
create another one, and then this package lock.json file at the
Uh-huh.
yeah. Go ahead
Sort of
and delete that one.
okay.
Don't delete the package. You don't want to delete
Just
the package one. Just keep in mind. But yeah,
okay.
the package lock.json.
Okay.
Okay, and then npm install again. Okay, but we're still having the same issue. And then sometimes you just have to close out the editor and reopen it.
Okay.
That might be
Okay.
an issue as well. And then yeah. So let's see. Because sometimes it's not actually an error. It thinks it's an error. And then the comma, see, I don't know why it's doing that, but
Weird.
I'm suspecting hover over it again.
Okay.
The error unterminated string literal. Hold up. Let's because normally when you get to that part, oh, what am I doing? It so this would be a good chance to uh we can use AI to help troubleshoot this. Uh, because I am thinking it has to be something with our but we didn't change any of our configurations. Actually, let me see. Uh, go to your Vite config real quick, the vite.config.js.
Okay.
Uh, it looks correct to me. Define config, plugins, React, Tailwind. It could be, uh, where is, so this is GitHub and then MillDB. Okay, so we got that. It could be, okay. Uh, so it could be how we're opening the project folder, I'm thinking.
Okay.
So if you want to actually go in the terminal, let's see if well, I think it didn't work for you last time, but uh oh right. Okay, never mind. Just go to file.
File.
Just go to
Okay.
file and then open folder and then just open the milldb folder.
Okay.
It could be so going into GitHub
GitHub.
and then the milldb just go back.
Oh, okay. Oops.
So just click on the milldb and then hit open. Let's see what happens. And
Oh,
then yeah, the source
source. Okay.
and then go to the really. That is so strange to me. Okay. So one thing we can do because it's 2026 and AI is good for some stuff. We can use AI to troubleshoot.
True.
So let's do this. Let me see. Oops. Okay, and then let's see what errors are. So we're getting a unterminated template literal. And then what is it showing under the like for instance where one of the um like go over the where it says string the and middle thumb.
Okay.
Yeah, like one of the where the squiggly line is, one of the squiggly
Oh,
lines.
gotcha.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, and it's giving us invalid characters.
Huh.
So let me see. Mm, so oh, I guess I never shared this, huh?
Oh, do you want me to unshare?
Oh yeah, I am not sharing. Yeah, we can I can show you what the so it looks like it had something to do with how I am sharing the code,
Oh,
which
weird. Okay.
let's see. Cause let me check. Oh, did it have, but I'm not. Okay. Yeah. So I lost my window. Oh, there it goes. Up or board. Hold up, it's not letting me move windows for some reason with this. But essentially, it's thinking that since I use like in the syntax of um the what do you call that? The code block from the example here
Mhm.
is thinking that it might have something to do because everything looks correct. Is it I guess the code from the syntax is somehow some hidden characters are getting transferred.
It's
Uh
so pretty though. It's beautiful.
yeah, yeah, but so I don't but it's correct for mine. You would think it would happen because I'm giving you the same code that I copied in. So you would think that the issue would be on both of our term or yeah sessions, but no.
Maybe I copied it wrong somehow. Let me try again.
Let's, actually, yeah, keep going.
It's the quotations.
Is
Like if
there?
or if you just delete your quotations and then
Mhm.
quote it again, it'll probably fix it. It's
Oh,
doing
okay,
it on mine in every file that has the quotes that I copied from what's it
really?
called? Yeah, from Slack.
Is it mad about
So,
your commas too?
I don't think it cares about the commas.
so it
Okay,
must be
mine's
the
mad.
okay. That's interesting.
Interestingly enough, Claude did not point out the quotes. He tried to say that it might have been the globals.browser.
Hmm.
Um, and then I said, I can just change the quotes. And he was like, oh, that's a good idea. Uh, If you look at them, they're kind of like slanted a little bit. The ones we pasted in, and they're not like straight
Mm,
Yeah.
lines.
which is maybe it's I don't know. It has to be the way Slack is handling them when
Yeah, I
I
think so.
pay so. Okay. So if you and I guess an easy way would also be like if you wanted to, like if you had that problem in the future, you could just copy and paste it into like to one of the AIs and then just make them remake the quotations.
All right, I'll be ready in just 1 second. I'm figured out how to fix my commas, but take this.
I want to see. Or maybe it's because oh, you know what? I wonder if I would have pasted them in code blocks, would that have made a difference? That might be the problem.
Uh, I didn't have to change my commas. My commas were good. Once I fix the quotes, then it's all good.
Thank you for that, Brian.
Yeah, no worries. We debug as a team.
The team effort. Okay, so the comments look more normal now when it's in a code block.
Okay, let me try that. Okay. Excellent. Okay.
All right. Note
Yay.
to future self, use code blocks.
Well, who would have thought? I mean, I'd have never thought.
Me neither, but that is a good point. Like, because the quotations prior to it being in a code block, they are way different. So somebody has like figured, hey, let's make these quotations look pretty when they're not in code blocks.
Picky old thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah. Well, it is the way that that characters are um registered because they have these little character codes. So I guess they technically, while they're quotations, they have a different character code. I guess that VS Code does not like. So now we know.
Now we know.
Okay, so we got our sample data. So we're going to do something with that sample data, and we are going to build a card. And if you look at this example code, it looks familiar because we went over that when we were looking at the Daisy UI. It has the card, and then the card body, and then the card title. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build out this card. Uh, then, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go into our components, and then a new uh, well, let's see, time. Okay, so yeah, and we're gonna build out a new component, and we're gonna call this one. milcard.jsx. And then for okay, yeah. So I think we have, sorry, I'm thinking here for a second. I want to make sure. Okay, yeah. I think we have enough time to go ahead and just type this out real quick. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to build our mill card based on that mill data that we just got, right? So in order to access it, we actually have to export this as well. So we can even do the export, but if this is going to be the only thing that we are going to use, we can even oh wait, it's a const. I forgot. Export default does not like the you can't do it in line if it has the const. So if you're gonna want to export it as a default, you have to export default sample mills. So now that it's being exported, we can access it. We're gonna go back to our mill card JSX, and we're gonna go ahead and actually import sample mills. Okay, actually, I'm sorry. We're gonna actually backtrack. We're gonna get rid of the default because yeah, we're gonna actually take it back up here, and then we're actually just going to just export it. Sorry, I wanted to backtrack, but I forgot. I did want to show something for our importing. Sorry.
Mine is suddenly mad about the exporting. I get the red squiggly since I took out the default.
Uh, that's yeah. So we're just gonna export it on the. So you can just get rid of that whole line on the bottom, and we're gonna actually export up here when we declare it.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So milk cart. So when we are exporting in this way, we have to do it a little bit differently because when it's the default, you can simply just export it like this. However, when you're just doing a little basic export, you actually have to put it in the curly braces. Um, because so we could have multiple exports, and with this, if we had multiple exports in that one file, we'd be able to uh use this little object notation, right, to be able to declare all the exports from that particular file. So you could have 10 different functions or anything that you're exporting, and then you could pick and choose which ones you want to pull out. However, with the default, if you were to pull the default, uh, importing that sample mills would, that default just tells it that this is, like as I mentioned earlier, that this is the default that we want to be able to access. So we don't need we can just use that plain sample mills in order to access that. And you can see here with the IntelliSense, it actually gives us that outline of what sample mills is, right? So we know that we're pulling in the correct thing as well. So this is also a quick way. So if you did have multiple exports, if you're expecting specific data or specific shape from it, you can actually get this quick overview right from the file that you're importing it in to see to make sure that you're pulling in the right thing, right? So now we are going to declare our function. Let's see, meal card. Actually, I'm doing this. So I am doing this back. Getting ahead of myself. So we imported in here. We're not gonna import it into this one because we want to be able to. We want our meal cards to be able to render dynamically. So what we're actually going to do is uh we're going to pass the prop. So I'm kind of leading you down the. I got ahead of myself there. I'm thinking of something else, but so I did get a little ahead of myself. So we're going to actually get rid of that import, and then we're going to do a prop. Or we're going to pass a prop, and we're just going to call it meal. No, so it can doing it this way. So I'm doing it this way intentionally because doing it this way it can be, what does meal consist of, right? We know that we have uh for the for what is it? The meal that we're pulling from our meal data, we know that is going to be this shape, the ID meal, string meal thumb, and string category. So we know we are expecting those. Uh, so we have the ID meal, uh, string meal, and then it was the string meal thumb and string category. You don't have to copy these if you don't want to, but this is more so for reference. So, all right, so we know that this is the shape that we're expecting. It's not apparent from here, so you're kind of having to lay this out for your code, and then you kind of, in a sense, hoping that whatever we pass meets that structure, right? There's no real check for that. And as we mentioned earlier, we are going to be learning TypeScript, which is a typing system to that's actually going in the future when we implement it, we're gonna set us up so that we can check for these and we can check for these and we can set the expectation for what type of structure that what kind of schema that we're looking for so that if we're trying to pass data, it's gonna type check that data and make sure that it meets that expected structure. There's a specific word I'm thinking of that I can't land on, but yeah, structure is all right. But so that way, if it doesn't satisfy that requirement, it's gonna throw an error and say, hey, I expected to have ID string mill thumb, and string category, but you didn't pass that. So right now we're kind of loose with it, which is fine because we know what we're looking for, we know what we're gonna access. So we know that meal. So when we pass in meal, we know that that meal is gonna have an ID, a string mill, which is gonna be the name, the string mill thumb, which is gonna be the thumbnail link, the URL, and then the string category, right? So for here, we are going to go ahead and return, and then we're going to do this. I know I was doing the React fragment. I personally prefer just to do a div on it. It's going to essentially come out to a div anyway, but that's just my personal preference. And then we can actually, since this is going to be the card, we're doing the mill card, we can actually make this the class name, and we'll go ahead and throw that card on there. So this is for Daisy UI to recognize that we want this to be a card. And then, oh wait, where did it go? And then it is good. They do this, the background base 100. You'll usually see this. This is what's going to give our card that like that shadowy look on the background to make it pop off the page. So we can do the background base and then the shadow. The shadow stands for like the box shadow. So box shadow means just like the box of the element. So the element is going to be like a little shadow behind your on the outside of your element. Um, we do base 100 and then shadow. So wait a minute. Hold up, I done. Okay, extra large. My brain is going crazy. Okay. All right. So now that we got that, um, this sample code is just like in the code from the Daisy example. It likes to use this figure. So this is just setting it up so when like how it had that card with the image on there, um, it's just telling it that we're uh setting that section off for that. Um, we can do that. So just because that's what Daisy likes, we'll go ahead and do that. And then we're gonna have our image. And then where is Daisy? Okay, so yeah, so you see it has that. So just like in the example, it has that. Uh, so the image, we can see how they have it here statically. What we're going to do is we're going to use the data that we expect to get back from there instead, right? So, uh, actually, hold on, let me see. I almost forgot there for a second. So we use source. So image tags can get kind of confusing because sometimes they could take a source, sometimes I don't remember if it's necessarily like a React issue or a Next issue. So I think it's Next. So Next handles images differently. So it can get kind of confusing when we get to Next. So that's why I'm trying to remember. But here we can pass in a string, but we're expecting that it's going to be uh that we're getting the data from the mill. So we're going to do the mill. We got that dot notation, and then we're going to put we're expecting the ID mill. So ID mill. And then it's good practice to have the alt tag. So we'll do the mill. We can make it just the mill dot string mill as well. So the name of the food. So the alt tag is really good for accessibility. So like or if like an image doesn't render the alt tag, it'll show the alt tag text instead of like what the image was supposed to be. But it's also good for screen readers because of a screen reader, the screen reader is going to be able to tell, like for somebody who is blind, they'll be able to tell, oh, this is the image. So the screen reader is going to be like image, and it's going to be like image, and then it's going to read off this alt tag. So it'll be like image, and it'll be like shrimp soup or something, right? So whoever is reading, they're like, oh, that's supposed to be a picture of shrimp soup. So then that's going to render our picture. And then we're going to create under that figure, we're going to create another element, which is going to be our, card content, essentially. So then here, um, you can. So I know that for here it has like the card body. You want to include the card body and all that stuff. And then this one's doing the H tag. You might see it done differently because somebody might it might be an H tag, but they might do a some people where I like to do it with the H like the header. And it's also better for accessibility issues. But if you see it, you might see like a div and then it'll be like card title or something like that, or P tag and card title. But this is typically the better way to do it because it's more accessibility friendly and it's easier to understand what the purpose of that element is supposed to be. So a lot of people they'll get into JSX and they'll just it'll be you might hear the term like div soup, where they do everything's a div, right? And then they just it's a div, but they use it as a title, like a header or some form, right? So the best practice is you still kind of want to use the intended elements for it because they render better and you don't have to like and when we're expecting element you don't have to keep diving through divs and divs and divs and then trying to guess what the div is by reading the class names on that div. You know what it is because you see the element name, right? So I do want to point that out. um so we're going to do our class name and then we're going to do the card body for that, and then we're going to do our h2 header 2. And that one is going to be, since it's the title, we're expecting it to be the title. Oh, oops. I should. Is you can do the class name. Let me see. There's a true. Oh, I don't have that. I think it's a tool that you gotta get. And then, so we're gonna put the pass the card title class to our H2 element. And then we're gonna do the mill dot string mill. Oh wait, I put ID mill. I did make a mistake. I don't know why I did this. Uh, for the image, for some reason I put the ID mill. It's supposed to be string mill thumb. Sorry. I'm glad I caught that. But yeah, so we can go ahead and fix that now. String mill thumb. And then we got our okay. So we match our categories. And then I forgot what I put for the example. But yeah, okay. So it's just a but I wanted to have it as so we'll do a p tag and then we'll do because I didn't do this in the example. Category and it's gonna be mail dot string the string mail category. Yeah, string. Oh, I gotta double check. Yeah, string category. I know it can seem like a lot trying to have to manage, like, remember, that's one of the things I did want to show is like it can seem like a lot having to remember like the shape of this, the expected data that's coming in, like the string category, having to go back to the mill data and check it and then come back and then put that in there. But I kind of want to emphasize this now so you know like because like if you don't know what to expect, you don't realize how much work you're really having to do here with having to maintain this type of thing, right? So once we learn TypeScript, you're gonna realize like some people think TypeScript is annoying because it throws errors at you all the time, but that's what it's supposed to do because it's supposed to tell you these type of things early on. But it also gives us the benefit because when we're using TypeScript, when we type in the mill and we do the mill dot, well, it knows our expected shape. So it gives us those options right then and there from IntelliSense because it knows what shape we're expecting. It was like, hey, I know what you're looking for because you told me ahead of time what shape we should expect. And then it's able to do that, is able to help you speed up. So it's a little bit more of a setup, but when you're actually coding, it saves you time in that regard. So a lot of people don't like it because there is some setup to it, but it also saves you a lot of time while you're coding and also on the back end because then you're going to have to, it saves you from having to do a lot of troubleshooting and dealing with errors because not every issue is going to error out because we're putting mill.string category, but we might have a typo. We might put something that we expect from another data source in here thinking that it belongs here, but it doesn't. So we're not going to get those, we're not going to run into those issues because it doesn't know what to expect. So it's not going to error out here. It's not going to error out when it builds. It's going to error out it's not even going to error out at all. So we're only going to know it's an issue when we go to see where that data is supposed to be rendered. And now we're not seeing that data that we're expecting because we're not accessing it correctly. So that's one of the benefits of TypeScript. And I wanted to emphasize that here as well. So we can understand like what we're doing here is kind of is par for the course if we're just doing JavaScript, there's ways we can handle this. But it's really to show the importance of TypeScript once we get there, so that value add to it, so you understand the value add to when we're using TypeScript. All right, and then actually, so I want to do for the cart title. Actually, no, this is fine. So we'll just leave it like this for now. So we got our mill card and we're passing our mill prop, and then we're using the prop on it. So if you remember the dot uh the notation for accessing items and objects, so that's what we used here. So now we want our we want to show this data as this component on our screen. So we have our header, our body. We want our header to stay the same. So we want the content and our body to change. So what we can actually do is I know we have that body data, but we can actually import our mill cart into here, and then we'll actually change this p tag to a div and then get rid of this text so we don't have to, so all our text isn't green. And then while we have our data, or for the, yeah, so we can go ahead and get rid of this. We'll change that prop later. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually render our mill cart here. And then we're not passing, we're not passing any data to our mill cart. So we're not going to see anything. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get the data for our mill card. So we're going to import. Oh wait, we did it this way. Oh, sample mills. I call it sample mills. Sample mills. And then our our mill card, because like I mentioned, you do want to name your components, like your props, you want to name your components for their intended use. So mill card is and implying that it's just going to be one card, right? So if we pass all our data to this mill card, it's not going to render correctly because we're passing an array of objects. So we want to make sure that we pass one. So we're going to do mill, and then our mill is we actually going to be sample mills, and then we can just do access the first one. So doing the bracket notation, and it's going to be the 0, which is going to be the very first item in our sample mills. And as you can see, it is a very large card. So this is with no styling. This is so uh there's a few things that's determining the height. So right now, since we didn't declare any height, it's just using the default values of when we pulled up the web page of this image earlier, it was a very large image. So it uses the default values of that image. However, if we go back to actually, we don't even have to do that. We can actually use Tailwind to set our width and height. So we can even do let's say we want to do let's do a height. So Tailwind height is represented with an H, and then we can do let's see how big this is. We can do it does it we can do the ooh, maybe let's do half. Let's see what that gives. So still pretty large. Let's do, and then width, I did 2/4 when I could just do. So there it goes. So it's a lot more manageable. So, oh, sorry. But so H in Tailwind, H is going to represent the height, and then width is going to represent or W is going to represent the width. So it's very simple. So it's a lot of things are pretty simplified. That's one of the things with Tailwind. They wanted to simplify it and then be able to do it in line. So and then it's uh represented by fractional value. So you can do so this is going to be the relative to the parent element, right? That you're in. So we're in the body. So yeah, so it's going to be relative to uh the parent element, but also relative to the native side of the whatever that element is trying, whatever side it's trying to be, uh, basically. So we've seen how big this was. So half of the original height of this, because the image made this element really large, right? So half we're making it half of that side and then half of that width. Uh, and then this is what we get. So we remember earlier we use margin. So like if we wanted to center an element, we use margin for that. And we did that using the like margin auto, which means it's gonna auto on all the margin sizes. Margin is represented by a M in Tailwind. So we just do M dash auto and boom, it centers it for us. So we got our first card. So we got that. Now we got our mill card. However, we have 6 items and we could go through and we could do uh the same thing. Hold up. We could go through and do the same thing for each item. Ooh, I did too. And render it that way. But every time we add an item, we're not going to get that updated value from that item automatically. We're going to have to manually add. So we'll have to, if I went in to my mill data and added an item here, I would then have to go back to the body and then add another mill card element here, a component, right? Instance. So uh that's that kind of goes against the principles of React because we want it to be modular. We want it to be dynamic on how we render our data. We don't want to have to every it's modular because we don't want to have to go and update 8 things every time we want to update one thing, right? So when we update, we what we want is when I add a item here, I want it to have like a waterfall effect to where it's set up to in a way where it's gonna update that, and then we're gonna be able to pick that up from here. So the way we're going to do that is with the map method that we mentioned earlier, right? Which returns a value which returns a value when we uh for each item that it's iterating through. So it's a loop iterator basically, and every item that it iterates through is going to return a value. Arrow functions. So I added this last minute. Um, we'll come back to arrow functions because you're gonna see an arrow function, and we can talk about it real quick. You're gonna see arrow function when we do our map. Uh, this is I know we had seen arrow function before, but this is like the regular function. Uh, you see our function. So we've been doing our components with the regular function doing this way. Um, with this, and then you see this. But you can also do an arrow function. You can also do a component in an arrow function as well. Uh, which is where you'll see the const, right? And then it would be the double. So the double function, which is going to double whatever value that you put into it, and then it's just going to equal. So we got our equal signs, and then this is our props. So it's the same thing, just a different shape, right? Um, and then you got the arrow function. You got the arrow. That's why it's called the arrow function because you got the arrow, and then you just same thing. It's coming out to the same thing. It just instead of doing the function, we have a const. So this also affects the way that we export, because like you can't call the export default with the const. So it affects the way how you have to export as well. It really does come down to personal preference on how you want to do it, because like you might see it this way where the function and then this, but you still see like arrow functions throughout. There might be a mix of somebody who uses that with arrow function. So it come down to personal preference, whatever the code base you're working in, that standard and all that good stuff. You're gonna notice that like that's pretty a common thing, just for anything because different code bases have different standards. You kind of want to maintain a standard just so everything it makes it more readable. So that way when you're going through, you know what to expect as you go through different files. But then arrow functions also have the implicit return. So that means like if it's like a very simple like expression like n times 2, um you go through, you pass your prop the n, and then it's just this n times 2. It implicit return means that it is going to see this and it's going to return. You don't have to do the return statement to get this to return this value. So it's going to return that value essentially. But yeah, if you're going to be doing any like uh complex expressions or having to declare any variables, you're definitely going to have to put in this body. Uh, so I'll say that because here we are going to map. So in React, you have to we'll have our map function, um, which if you're just gonna do like a uh basic um like computation or something like that, if you're just wanting to do some things on some data, but you don't need to return anything, you can go through. I mean, if you're using a map, typically you're gonna be returning things. But even if you return values, but if you don't need to immediately render those values, then you could just do a basic, you'll go through. So you're mapping on an array and items, right? So you'll go through and it's going to do the dot map, and then this is you'll see the arrow function. So this is just going to be you declaring your for each item. Basically, it's kind of like the prop, right? You're gonna be using you're declaring this prop, but you're gonna be using that the instance that it's on as that prop. So it's gonna be the one, right? So now we got our arrow function, and it's gonna be 1 times 2. Uh, so this is what I mentioned earlier with the difference between for each, because for each isn't returning values. As you can see here, it's doing the same thing. We're iterating through each item, doing the same function, same expression, everything. However, it's not returning anything. So this is like purely if you need to do any like some like if you had to do some transformations on something or just some calculations or anything like that, something that doesn't need to be exposed, then that's where you would get that. So for here, we from here, so we want to take all our sample mills and render a component for each sample mill. So what we'll do here is we're going to do the bracket. So we're going to do sample mills because we know our sample mills is an array. And then we're going to do a dot map and curly braces. So one shape that you'll see a lot is I'll tell you so sample mills. So like I mentioned earlier, like when we were doing our mill car, it was like that singular, like to indicate that it's just a mill. You're expecting one mill. Sample mills tells us that it's multiple mills, right? So we probably should expect an array. For our prop, you'll typically see the 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 industry standard is usually that prop is just going to be the singular version of that, so the sample mill. So we're going to be like, for each item, we're going to consider it a mill, right? So we put in mill. Did it create a new one? Oh, yeah. So then we're going to do our arrow. And then here, since the only thing we're expecting is a mill card to render, we can uh we can use the implicit return. So we can do the meal card. And then we're going to want to, meal equals meal. it seems kind of crazy because we declare it as a meal, and then we know uh the prop we're supposed to be passing is the meal, and then we're passing it as a meal. So it seems, but it simplifies things. And then see here, on the with Telesynth is showing that that structure that we're passing from the sample mill. So that's a good sign for us because that's what we expect to go through. And then as you can see here, now instead of, I'm sorry, were you still typing? Okay. Okay. So now you can see here that it's rendering all of our sample mills and not just the ones that we manually did. And it's doing it in the expected shape we're doing it, right? Did it render correctly for you? No, perfect. Hey, that's good. That means we get to learn something. Okay. Are you getting an error anywhere, or is it not rendering?
It's just not rendering at all.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Let's see if you want to share your code, we can go through it.
Okay. All right. So this is on the body one, right?
Yes, we're
Oh,
on the
okay.
body.
Okay. Let me pull
So,
up here. Okay. Share.
okay. So, but so it was originally sharing when we did it, we pull in the mill card. There was originally rendering the mill. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So, uh, the difference is now we're passing, instead of a one singular mill item, we're passing in the whole, well, yeah, we're iterating through the item. So sample mills dot map, it should actually worked pretty smoothly because it was rendering for you, and then it was rendering the titles and the image and all that stuff, correct?
Hmm.
When it was just the mill card. Okay. And then it's not
I think
rendering.
so.
So let's go. Let's look at our mill data.
Okay.
Well, you copy the mill data. So we're gonna go to the mill card, I mean.
Okay.
Mill touch. Oh, okay. So yeah. So this is so it does, so sometimes it'll render, sometimes it won't. So if we are expecting to render something, okay, perfect. All right. So go back to your code. Ooh, okay. Let me make. Okay. So yeah, if we're expecting to render something, sometimes it depends. It can be a little finicky. So go in your mill card. No, the actually, sorry. Go back to the body and the
Okay.
mill card component that we're rendering. So right after mill card, the actual word mill card inside the component where we're rendering in your return statement, like in the
In
map
that.
function.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, in the
Okay.
mill card, like right after the word mill card, like right before mill, yeah. Type in key and then equal sign and then the curly bracket, and then you're going to do mill dot ID mill. Yeah. Yeah, mill, the capital mill, and then close the bracket. Where's that? And then get rid of that equal sign.
Okay. Okay.
That that. Oh, we got rid of. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Okay, I see what happened. Go. So go back to that. The start of those curly brackets. I see what happened
Okay,
now. Sorry.
that's okay.
Right here. You see where we're getting the error at on mill. That curly bracket.
Oh, this one. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Go to the front of that one, and then space. We accidentally got rid. That was my fault because I. Okay. So then type in mill and then equals. We still got that problem. All right. Does it render for you now?
Okay, let's see.
Oh,
Huh.
okay. Go back. So this is still an important thing. So you'll normally get an error on this. Because for items that are being rendered, you're going to want to include a key, um, a unique key. So it has to be unique, specific to. So it's not shared by any other item that's being um rendered. Because this is how React tells it keeps track of the state of each of those items and how it can tell like if an item has been deleted, changed, removed, or anything like that. So that way, if we change something, like if we went to our mail card data and changed something, that way it would React would be like, oh, okay, this item changed, and it knows to render that data to the DOM accurately. But now we need to figure out why. Normally you wouldn't have an issue with it showing. You'll normally just get a like an error in the console saying, "Hey, there needs to be key on these items." And unless there's a conflict, that's usually when you'll get a error. But let's see why it is not rendering for us, even though. So we got a div sample mill dot map mill. Oh, mill car is not capitalized. Yeah, because the components have to be capitalized, which is strange.
Interesting.
Cause oh,
Oh
yeah,
dear.
yeah, that, that can happen. So, yeah, if you it doesn't get rid of any of the extra. It just auto completes from where it is. All
That's
right,
weird.
now it
Okay.
should render. Yeah,
Okay, let's see. Ah, there we go.
there we go.
Yum, yum, yum.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Thank
It's,
you.
of course, it's pretty cool, huh? Being able to
Yeah.
just to iterate through them so simply and then be able to render them all just like that. Um,
Yeah, that's really cool.
and so yeah, it does. It does. Uh, that's where that React modular um principle mentality comes in. So that's what Ryan mentioned, the thinking in React, I believe. I think I don't know. If I haven't shared it with you, I'll share it. But thinking in React, it goes over this type of these things where it talks about, you know, thinking about, you know, how we want to set our projects up to work just like this so that instead of having to manually put in we're making this component, but we're doing a component each time we need to render a card. It kind of goes against the principles of React, where we want to make it to where it's. Oh, I guess I should share my screen again. Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, so where we are doing it in this shape because it's just one line versus having to do a line for each item, which sometimes it could be hundreds. It could be it could be even thousands, but there's ways we can handle when it's, large data sets like that. We can control we're doing it this way, we can pull in all that data, but we can control how. much of that data we're showing doing it this way, uh, very, very dynamically and all that stuff. So that's one of the cool things about React. And you just want to have that mindset because when you're working on things, you're going to start thinking, how can I simplify that? Like, how can I modularize this, right? Like, what, where can I, like, if you have a large file, you're thinking, like, where can I break this down, right? Or when you're starting, like, what is the anatomy of this component or this functionality or like even like this part of the page to where I can break it down to be modular and reusable because not only so we have this card this mill card but this mill card isn't limited to just this homepage, right? We will be able to take this mill card and put it on another page, right? So that's what makes it pretty useful. And yeah, yeah. So that's what makes it pretty useful. Any questions about that? And I know it's a lot to take in, but
I can't think of any. I'm sure I will have some, but I at the
oh,
moment I
absolutely,
don't.
absolutely. No, no worries. Okay, perfect. So let's go back. So yeah, like I said, the each React uh item needs a key. Let me see. Actually, okay, I didn't put a key. So here, let's see. We should be getting. There it goes. See, this is one. Each chai item in a list should have a unique key. So you'll see that in your console if you forget the key. Uh, it's very good practice. There may be instances where it'll never be an issue for you, but it's very good practice because you never know what might come up that will, what conflict will be created. And it's also, uh, it makes it easier, like I said, for React to know which of these items that it's rendering. If you update So if there's an update in the data that it's passing, it makes it easier for it to accurately track which item was updated, what part of that item was updated, if it was deleted or anything like that. So it deletes the correct one accurately. So that's why it's important to have that key. So I'll go ahead and notice that we didn't, for our component, that we didn't have a key prop, right? It's just part of that component. So React was able to a component that we made that we didn't have a key prop for. It was able to allow us to uh pass this as a key prop. I put ID. Well, the ID has a yeah, no, that's it. Okay, so yeah, I put ID mail. So it's the ID mail. We can expect with the ID that it's going to be a unique ID because that's how it's being used to identify. That's just the errors from when I type it in. All right. And then that's what we did here. So, any questions at all about anything that we went over? I know it's kind of a lot, but it's cool to see everything that we built out, like how you can use React, and then like Brian said when we were in the JavaScript modules, like everything that's going on the back end, like behind under the hood of React, right? Like all that JavaScript that's being used, and you were even able to, like you said, something clicked for you earlier. You were able to realize like what's going on. You noticed something that was going on, like that with the JavaScript that React is just taking here and then essentially simplifying, like simplifying it for you. So, um, but if you don't have any questions, that's pretty much what we were kind of uh covering today. Um,
Very cool. Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Um,
no worries.
yeah.
I think we covered everything. Did we? Yeah, we did because I did cover the arrow function. I said I was gonna come back to it, but then I covered it anyway. But yep, that's it. That's that's going over component architecture. I think so. Next time we're gonna be talking about. I'm gonna be sending out the homework today as well. Uh, and so just so you're aware, I'm gonna send out the homework usually like right after class. Wednesdays is gonna be like kind of like a check-in, like over the homework. We're gonna talk about what like the things that we're covering in homework, a quick overview of it. It's a good time, like if you're doing the homework and you have any questions or anything, to be able to ask those questions. And then the Saturdays is gonna be implementing those things we learned and actually getting hands-on experience with them. All right.
Sounds really good
That's
to me.
yeah, awesome. All right, if there's no question, you get some time back. Brian, I know you said you're going to be in and out, but if you're there, if you got anything you want to add, feel free.
Nope.
Oh,
All sounds good to me.
awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate you. You get some Saturday back, and I'll see you
Thank
Wednesday.
you.
Of
Thank you
course.
so
Thank you.
much.
Of course. Thank you. All right, y'all have a good weekend.
Okay, you too.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.